The sun warmed Kiara's fur as she walked the familiar paths of the Pride Lands. It was her duty to make sure everything was in order, that the zebras had enough grazing space, and that the waterhole was shared fairly. She loved this land, every baobab tree and every rocky outcrop. Today, the air felt especially peaceful. The birds sang sweetly, and even the grumpy rhinos seemed content. Kiara enjoyed these quiet patrols. They gave her time to think, to remember her father, Simba, and to prepare herself for the day she would truly lead the Pride Lands. Kova was usually by her side, but today he was helping Timon and Pumba gather grubs, a task he surprisingly enjoyed. As she rounded a bend near the elephant graveyard borders, an area they kept a close watch on, she saw something that made her pause. A lion she'd never seen before stood proudly on a small rise, surveying the land. He wasn't from her pride. Kiara knew every lion and lioness within the Pride Lands. This one was a stranger. He had a thick, dark mane, much darker than Kovu's, and his eyes shone with an unusual intensity. He was muscular and moved with a confident grace that suggested he was used to being in charge. Kiara felt a flicker of unease. Who was this lion, and what was he doing in her territory? She cautiously approached, her paws making soft sounds on the dry grass. The stranger didn't seem startled by her presence. He simply turned his head, a slight smile playing on his lips. His gaze held hers, and Kiara felt a strange shiver run down her spine. He was handsome, yes, but there was something else there, something she couldn't quite place, something that made her fur prickle. This meeting felt important. She knew, deep down, that this new lion would change things. "Welcome to the Pride Lands," Kiara said, her voice steady despite the nervousness she felt. "I am Kiara, daughter of Simba." The stranger chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. "Kiara," he repeated, as if tasting the name. "A pleasure. I am Malik." He dipped his head in a gesture that was almost a bow. "I have been away. For a very long time." "Away?" Kiara tilted her head. "From where?" Malik's eyes twinkled. "From a place you may not know. A place of ancient stories of forgotten kings. I have returned to claim what is rightfully mine." Kiara frowned. "Rightfully yours? What do you mean?" Malik stepped closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "My lineage predates Simba's. My ancestors were the first rulers of this land, chosen by the great kings of the past themselves. A bloodline that flows with the very magic of the Pride Lands." He gestured dramatically towards Pride Rock. "That throne is my birthright." Kiara couldn't help but laugh, though she didn't find it funny. "That's impossible. My father is the king. He was chosen after Mufasa. There's no other bloodline." Malik smiled. "Asad, knowing smile. Ah, but history is often rewritten, isn't it? The truth is buried, for the sake of convenience. But I am here to unearth it, to restore the rightful order." He began to spin a tale of ancient lion kings, of powerful magic, and of a royal line forgotten by time. He spoke of the land needing a strong leader, someone who truly understood its magic, someone like him. His voice was captivating, his words carefully chosen to appeal to her sense of duty and her love for the Pride Lands. Kiara listened, her mind racing. Could there be any truth to his words? It seemed so outlandish, so impossible. But Malik spoke with such conviction, such undeniable confidence. It was unsettling. He made her question everything she thought she knew about her family and her home. This chance encounter was becoming much more complicated than she ever imagined. Kiara, still reeling from Malik's pronouncements, watched as he descended the rise and began to mingle with the other animals. He greeted them with warmth and genuine interest, asking about their lives, their concerns, and their hopes for the future. He listened intently, his dark eyes full of empathy. It wasn't long before a small crowd gathered around him. He told stories of the old ways, of a time when the Pride Lands were even more prosperous, when the animals lived in perfect harmony, guided by the wisdom of the ancient kings. He spoke of bringing back that golden age, of making the Pride Lands the envy of all the lands beyond. Many of the animals were captivated. The older ones, especially, remembered tales of time before Simba, a time of great prosperity and powerful magic. Malik's words resonated with a longing for a simpler, better past. Even some of the younger lions, who had only known Simba's reign, were drawn to Malik's charisma and his promises of a brighter future. But not everyone was convinced. Zazu, ever the cautious advisor, watched Malik with suspicion. He whispered his concerns to a nearby elephant, pointing out inconsistencies in Malik's stories. A few of the lionesses, loyal to Simba and Kiara, also remained skeptical, sensing a falseness beneath Malik's charming exterior. Soon, whispers began to spread through the Pride Lands. Some lions openly questioned Simba's right to the throne, wondering if Malik was indeed the true heir. Others defended Simba, reminding everyone of his bravery and his wisdom. A clear division began to form, splitting the pride into those who supported Malik and those who remained loyal to Simba. Kiara watched with growing alarm. Malik's words were like seeds planted in fertile ground, quickly sprouting into doubt and dissension. She knew she had to act quickly. She couldn't let Malik's charm and his outlandish claims tear the Pride Lands apart. She had to find out the truth about his past, about his lineage, and about his true intentions before it was too late. The peace she cherished was crumbling before her eyes. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Kiara sought out Kovu. He was resting near the watering hole, watching the stars begin to appear. She patted softly beside him, her brow furrowed with worry. "Kovu," she said, her voice low, "I need to talk to you." Kovu turned, his green eyes filled with concern. "What is it, Kiara? You seem troubled." She explained everything that had happened, from her first encounter with Malik to the growing division within the Pride Lands. She recounted Malik's story of the ancient bloodline, his charisma, and the unsettling feeling she couldn't shake. Kovu listened intently, his expression growing serious. When she finished, he nuzzled her reassuringly. "I understand your concern, Kiara. It does sound suspicious. But are you sure you're not just being protective of your father's throne?" Kiara sighed. "That's why I keep asking myself. Maybe I'm being biased. But there's something about him, Kovu. Something that doesn't feel right. It's like he's hiding something." Kovu nodded. "I trust your instincts, Kiara. You have a good heart and a sharp mind. If you feel something is wrong, then it probably is." "I need to investigate," Kiara said, her voice firm. "I need to find out who Malik really is, where he comes from, and what he truly wants. I can't let him divide our pride based on lies." "I'll help you," Kovu said without hesitation. "We'll do it together. We'll find the truth, no matter what it takes." Kiara smiled, a small flicker of hope returning. "Thank you, Kovu. I knew I could count on you." Together, they decided on a plan. Kiara would start by seeking information from Rafiki, the wise old baboon who knew the history of the Pride Lands better than anyone. Kovu would talk to some of the other animals, trying to gather any information they might have heard about Malik or his origins. They knew it would be a difficult and dangerous task, but they were determined to protect the Pride Lands from whatever threat Malik posed. The fate of their home depended on it. The next morning, Kiara set off to find Rafiki. His baobab tree was a bit of a trek, located on the edge of the Pride Lands, near the Outlands. The journey gave her time to think, to solidify her resolve. She had to remain objective, to consider the possibility that Malik was telling the truth, however unlikely it seemed. When she arrived, Rafiki was perched on a branch, painting a new picture on the trunk of his tree. He greeted her with a knowing smile. "Ah, Kiara, I have been expecting you." The wind carries whispers of a new lion in the Pride Lands. Kiara nodded. "You know about Malik?" Rafiki chuckled. "Rafiki knows many things. But tell me, Kiara, what troubles your heart?" Kiara explained Malik's claims, his story of the ancient bloodline, and the division he was causing within the Pride. She shared her unease, her instinct that something was amiss. Rafiki listened patiently, stroking his chin with his long fingers. When she was finished, he hopped down from the branch and began to stir his mystical concoction in a gourd. "The past is like this brew, Kiara," he said, his voice wise and gentle. "Many ingredients, some sweet, some bitter, some long forgotten. Malik speaks of a time before Simba, but the great kings of the past show me no such lion in the royal lineage. He paused, looking intently at Kiara. However, the past is vast. There are stories that are lost, secrets that are buried deep. It is possible that Malik speaks a truth that has been forgotten, but it is also possible that he weaves a web of lies to serve his own purpose. Rafiki then led Kiara to a hidden part of his tree, where he showed her ancient carvings. He explained the lineage of the kings, pointing out the unbroken line leading to Simba. He showed her no mention of Malik's supposed ancestors. The answer you seek is not here, Kiara, Rafiki said. You must look deeper. Look to the land itself. The Pride Lands remember all things. Follow your heart, Kiara. It will guide you to the truth. Kiara thanked Rafiki for his wisdom and set off back towards Pride Rock, feeling both reassured and more confused than ever. The carvings didn't support Malik's claims, but Rafiki's words left room for doubt. She knew her investigation was far from over. She had to trust her instincts and continue searching for the truth wherever it might lead. As Kiara returned to Pride Rock, she was met by Kion and the Lion Guard. They looked serious and concerned. Kion stepped forward. Kiara, we need to talk. What is it, Kion? Kiara asked, her heart sinking. She had hoped to keep the Lion Guard out of this for now, not wanting to involve them unless absolutely necessary. We've noticed some unusual activity, Kion said, his voice grave. Since Malik arrived, there's been a lot of movement near the borders of the Pride Lands. Groups of hyenas and jackals have been seen heading towards the elephant graveyard, and they seem to be taking things. Taking things? Kiara frowned. What kind of things? Resources, fully chimed in, her cheetah eyes narrowed. Water from the streams, carcasses from recent hunts, even some of the special herbs that the healers use. They're carrying them away towards the Outlands. And it's not just them, Bunga added, his usual enthusiasm replaced by a worried expression. We've seen some of the lions who have sided with Malik doing the same thing, sneaking off with supplies in the dead of night. Kiara's mind raced. It was becoming clearer. Malik wasn't just after the throne, he was after something else. Something that involved exploiting the Pride Land's resources. Have you seen Malik involved in any of this directly? Kiara asked. Not directly, Ono replied, his keen eyes scanning the horizon. But we've seen him talking to the hyenas and jackals. He seems to be giving them orders. Kiara felt a surge of anger. Malik was using his charm and his false claims to manipulate the animals, to steal from the Pride Lands, and to create chaos. She had to stop him, not just for her father's sake, but for the sake of all the animals who call the Pride Lands home. Thank you, Kion, Kiara said, her voice firm. I need you and the Lion Guard to keep a close watch on Malik and his followers. Document everything you see, but don't confront them directly. We need proof, solid evidence of what he's doing. The Lion Guard nodded in agreement. They were ready to defend the Pride Lands, no matter the cost. Kiara knew that with their help, she had a better chance of uncovering Malik's true intentions and stopping him before he could do any more damage. The stakes were higher than ever. For the next few days, Kiara and Kovu worked tirelessly. Kovu, with his knowledge of the Outland from his cubhood, discreetly followed the trails of the hyenas and jackals, confirming that they were indeed taking the stolen resources to a hidden location deep within the elephant graveyard. He discovered a makeshift camp, heavily guarded, where the supplies were being stockpiled. Kiara, meanwhile, focused on gathering information from the lions who had initially supported Malik, but were now starting to have doubts. She listened patiently to their concerns, offering reassurance and gently guiding them to see the inconsistencies in Malik's stories. One lioness, named Zura, no relation to the Outlander Zura, confided in Kiara that she had overheard Malik speaking to the hyenas about his plans for the stolen resources. He intended to use them to build an army that would overthrow Simba and install him as the rightful ruler of the Pride Lands. He would then use the Pride Lands' fertile lands and abundant water sources to make himself powerful. Zira felt betrayed and disgusted. She had believed Malik's promises of a better future, but now she realized that he was nothing more than a power-hungry tyrant. She offered to help Kiara expose Malik's true nature to the rest of the Pride. Kiara also learned that Malik had been subtly poisoning the minds of the younger lions, filling them with resentment towards Simba and Kiara, telling them that they were being denied their rightful place in the Pride. He was grooming them to be his loyal soldiers, ready to fight for him when the time came. The pieces were falling into place. Malik wasn't just a charming stranger with a fanciful story. He was a dangerous manipulator, exploiting the Pride lands for his own selfish gain and building an army to seize control by force. Kiara knew she had to act quickly before he could solidify his power and plunge the Pride lands into war. She had the Lion Guard's reports, Zira's testimony, and Kovu's discoveries. Now, she just needed the perfect opportunity to reveal the truth to everyone. Malik, sensing that Kiara was getting close to the truth, decided to take preemptive action. He called a gathering at Pride Rock, inviting all the animals of the Pride lands. He claimed he had an important announcement to make, an announcement that would change the future of their home. When everyone was assembled, Malik stood tall and proud, his dark mane gleaming in the sunlight. He began to speak, his voice filled with emotion and conviction. "My friends," he said, "I have come to you with a heavy heart. I have discovered a terrible truth, a truth that has been hidden from you for far too long." He then launched into a carefully constructed speech, painting Kiara as a liar, a manipulator, and a threat to the Pride lands. He claimed that she was jealous of his rightful claim to the throne and that she was trying to silence him by spreading false rumors. He accused Kiara of hoarding resources, of neglecting the needs of the weaker animals, and of conspiring with the Outlanders to undermine the Pride lands. He presented fabricated evidence, cleverly distorted facts, and outright lies, all designed to make Kiara look guilty and untrustworthy. Many of the animals, already swayed by Malik's charisma and his earlier promises, were easily convinced. They had seen Kiara as a kind and just leader, but Malik's words planted seeds of doubt in their minds. Some of the younger lions, who had been influenced by Malik's earlier indoctrination, began to openly challenge Kiara, questioning her authority and accusing her of betraying their trust. Even some of the animals who had initially supported Kiara began to waver, unsure of what to believe. Malik's accusations were so convincing, his presentation so polished, that it was difficult to dismiss them entirely. Kiara watched in dismay as Malik's lies spread like wildfire, turning the Pride against her. She tried to defend herself, to explain the truth, but her words were drowned out by the jeers and accusations of the crowd. Malik had successfully turned the tables, painting her as the villain and himself as the victim. She knew that if she didn't do something soon, she would lose the trust of the Pride entirely, and Malik would have free rein to carry out his plans. Despite the accusations and the growing animosity, Kiara refused to give up. She knew that the truth was on her side, and she was determined to expose Malik for the liar and manipulator he truly was. She couldn't just rely on Zira's testimony or the Lion Guard's reports. She needed irrefutable proof, something that would silence Malik's lies once and for all. She turned to Kovu. "We need to find the stockpile," she said, her voice urgent. "We need to show everyone what Malik is really doing with the Pride Land's resources." Kovu nodded, his green eyes filled with determination. "I know where it is. I can lead you there." Under the cover of darkness, Kiara, Kovu, and Zira set off towards the elephant graveyard. They moved stealthily, avoiding the hyena patrols and the watchful eyes of Malik's loyal followers. When they reached the hidden camp, they were shocked by what they saw. Mountains of stolen resources were piled high, guarded by heavily armed hyenas and jackals. It was clear that Malik had been planning this for a long time. Kiara knew that they couldn't confront Malik's forces directly. They were outnumbered and outmatched. They needed a plan, a way to expose the truth to the rest of the Pride without putting themselves in danger. Then, Kiara had an idea. "We need to create a diversion," she said. "Something that will draw the guards away from the stockpile, giving us time to gather evidence." They decided to use the element of surprise. Zira, with her knowledge of the elephant graveyard, led them to a series of underground tunnels that ran beneath the camp. They used the tunnels to sneak into the camp undetected and set a series of small, controlled fires. The fires created chaos and confusion, drawing the guards away from the stockpile. While the hyenas and jackals scrambled to put out the flames, Kiara and Kovu quickly gathered as much evidence as they could: stolen water skins, piles of carcasses, and sacks filled with medicinal herbs. They even managed to find a map detailing Malik's plans to overthrow Simba and seize control of the Pride Lands. With the evidence in hand, they slipped back into the tunnels and made their escape, leaving the camp in a state of pandemonium. They knew that Malik would be furious, but they also knew that they were one step closer to exposing his lies and saving the Pride Lands. The next morning, Kiara called another gathering at Pride Rock. This time, however, the atmosphere was different. There was a palpable tension in the air, a sense of uncertainty and fear. Many of the animals who had previously supported Malik now looked at him with suspicion, their faith shaken by the fires in the elephant graveyard and the rumors that were spreading like wildfire. Malik stood at the top of Pride Rock, his expression unreadable. He seemed to sense that the tide was turning against him, but he remained defiant. Kiara stepped forward, holding the stolen water skins, the piles of carcasses, and a map detailing Malik's plans. She laid them before the assembled animals, her voice clear and strong. "Look at this," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "This is the truth about Malik. This is what he has been doing behind your backs. He has been stealing our resources, hoarding them for his own selfish gain, and plotting to overthrow my father and seize control of the Pride Lands." She pointed to the map. "This map shows his plans to build an army, to use force to take what he wants. He claims to be the rightful heir, but all he cares about is power." The animals gasped as they examined the evidence. They recognized the water skins, the carcasses, and the medicinal herbs. They saw the map, detailing Malik's sinister plans. The truth was undeniable. Zira stepped forward, adding her testimony to the evidence. She recounted her conversation with Malik, revealing his true intentions and his contempt for the animals of the Pride Lands. The younger lions, who had been swayed by Malik's lies, looked ashamed and remorseful. They had been blinded by his charisma, but now they saw him for what he truly was: a deceitful manipulator. Even some of Malik's most loyal followers began to turn away, their faces filled with disgust and anger. They had believed in his promises of a better future, but now they realized that he had been using them all along. Malik watched in fury as his carefully constructed web of lies unraveled before his eyes. He knew that he had been exposed, that his plans had been thwarted, but he refused to go down without a fight. "You dare accuse me," Malik roared, his voice filled with rage. "You dare try to turn my people against me? I am the rightful ruler of this land, and you are nothing but a traitor." He lunged at Kiara, his claws extended, ready to strike. But Kovu stepped in front of her, shielding her from the attack. "You're not the rightful ruler of anything, Malik," Kovu growled, his eyes blazing with anger. "You're a thief and a liar, and you'll never rule the Pride Lands." A fierce battle erupted. Malik, fueled by his rage and desperation, fought with savage intensity. Kovu, strong and skilled, defended Kiara with unwavering loyalty. The Lion Guard joined the fray, using their unique abilities to protect the other animals and to keep Malik from escaping. The younger lions who had been swayed by Malik's lies now fought against him, their hearts filled with remorse and a desire to make amends. Zira, too, fought bravely, determined to right the wrong she had done by initially supporting Malik. The battle raged across Pride Rock, the air filled with the sounds of roaring, growling, and clawing. The animals of the Pride Lands watched in horror, their hearts pounding with fear and uncertainty. Simba, hearing the commotion, arrived at Pride Rock with Nala and the rest of the lionesses. He saw the chaos and the violence, and his heart sank. He had hoped that Malik could be reasoned with, but it was clear that he was beyond redemption. "Enough!" Simba roared, his voice shaking the very ground. "This fighting must stop." But Malik ignored him, his eyes fixed on Kiara. He saw her as the obstacle to his ambition, the one person who stood between him and the throne. He was determined to eliminate her, no matter the cost. He lunged at her again, his claws outstretched. This time, however, Kiara was ready. She stood her ground, her eyes filled with courage and determination. She knew that the fate of the Pride Lands rested on her shoulders. She had to defeat Malik, not just for herself, but for everyone who called the Pride Lands home. Kiara ducked under Malik's swipe, her agility surprising him. She leaped onto a nearby rock, gaining a better vantage point. "Enough, Malik," she yelled, her voice echoing across Pride Rock. "This has gone on long enough. You came here with lies and deceit, trying to steal what isn't yours. You manipulated the animals, exploited their trust, and tried to turn them against each other." She paused, taking a deep breath. "But you failed, because the truth always comes out in the end. The Pride Lands are not yours to take. They belong to everyone who lives here, and we will not let you destroy them." Malik snarled, his eyes burning with hatred. "You think you've won, Kiara? You think you stopped me? This is just the beginning." He signaled to the hyenas and jackals who had remained loyal to him. They surged forward, attacking the lions and the lion guard. The battle intensified, the fate of the Pride Lands hanging in the balance. Kiara knew that she had to end this quickly. She couldn't let Malik's followers continue to fight and cause more bloodshed. She needed to find a way to defeat Malik and restore peace to the Pride Lands. She looked around, assessing the situation. She saw the Lion Guard using their powers to defend the animals, Kovu fighting bravely alongside her, and Simba leading the charge against the hyenas and jackals. She knew that they were all counting on her. Then, she saw an opportunity. Malik was distracted, fighting with Simba. She knew that this was her chance. She leaped from the rock, landing directly in front of Malik. "It's over, Malik," she said, her voice firm and unwavering. "Your lies have been exposed, your plans have been thwarted, and your reign of terror is at an end." Malik looked at her, his eyes filled with disbelief and rage. He had underestimated her, he realized. He had seen her as a naive and inexperienced princess, but she had proven to be a worthy opponent. He lunged at her one last time, determined to take her down with him. But Kiara was ready. She stood her ground, her eyes locked on his. She knew that this was the moment of truth, the moment that would determine the future of the Pride Lands. Kiara met Malik's attack with a roar of her own. She dodged his claws and retaliated with a swift kick to his chest, sending him stumbling backward. She used her smaller size to her advantage, moving quickly and unpredictably, making it difficult for Malik to land a solid blow. She remembered her training, all the lessons she had learned from her father and from Kovu. She used her intelligence and her agility to outmaneuver Malik, tiring him out with her relentless attacks. Meanwhile, the battle between the lions, the Lion Guard, and Malik's followers raged on. The hyenas and jackals, though fierce, were no match for the combined strength and skill of the lions and the Lion Guard. One by one, they were defeated, their numbers dwindling until only a few remained. The younger lions, eager to prove their loyalty to Kiara and Simba, fought with particular ferocity, determined to make up for their earlier mistakes. Zira, too, fought bravely, her heart filled with remorse and a desire to protect the Pride Lands from Malik's tyranny. The Lion Guard used their powers to create diversions and to protect the weaker animals from harm. Kion used the roar of the elders to create a powerful gust of wind, scattering the remaining hyenas and jackals and sending them fleeing in terror. Fully used her speed to outflank the enemy. Bunga used his fearlessness to disrupt their attacks. Besht used his strength to knock them off their feet, and Ono used his keen eyesight to guide their attacks. Simba fought with the wisdom and experience of a seasoned warrior, his every move precise and powerful. He defended his pride with unwavering loyalty, his heart filled with love and a determination to protect his home. As the battle drew to a close, it became clear that Malik was losing. His followers were defeated, his plans were thwarted, and his strength was waning. He stood alone, surrounded by his enemies, his eyes filled with despair. Malik, defeated and despairing, knew that he had no chance of winning, but he refused to surrender. He would rather die than admit defeat. With a final, desperate roar, he charged at Kiara, his claws extended, his eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and fear. Kiara stood her ground, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that this was it, the final moment. She had to be strong, she had to be brave, and she had to protect the Pride Lands from this tyrant. Just as Malik was about to reach her, Kiara sidestepped him with a swift move, causing him to lose his balance. She then used her momentum to deliver a powerful blow to his head, knocking him to the ground. Malik lay there, stunned and disoriented. He tried to get up, but he was too weak. Kiara stood over him, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and resolve. "It's over, Malik," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You've lost. Your lies have been exposed, your plans have been thwarted, and your reign of terror is at an end." Malik looked up at her, his eyes filled with hatred. "You may have defeated me, Kiara," he said, his voice weak and raspy, "but you'll never be able to erase the truth. I am the rightful ruler of this land, and one day, my descendants will return to claim what is rightfully theirs." Kiara shook her head. "There is no truth in your lies, Malik," she said. "The only truth is that you tried to steal what wasn't yours, and you failed. Now, you must leave the Pride Lands and never return." Simba stepped forward, his expression stern. "Malik," he said, "I hereby banish you from the Pride Lands. If you ever set foot in our territory again, you will face the consequences." Malik, defeated and humiliated, slowly rose to his feet. He glared at Kiara and Simba one last time, then turned and limped away, disappearing into the shadows. The Pride Lands were safe once more. With Malik gone, a sense of relief washed over the Pride Lands. The animals who had been swayed by his lies felt ashamed and remorseful, but they were grateful that Kiara had uncovered the truth before it was too late. The younger lions, who had been so easily manipulated by Malik, apologized to Kiara and Simba, promising to never again be so easily deceived. They pledged their loyalty to the royal family and vowed to protect the Pride Lands from any future threats. Zira, too, was forgiven for her initial support of Malik. She had proven her loyalty by helping Kiara expose his lies and by fighting bravely against his followers. She was welcomed back into the Pride with open arms. The Pride Lands began to heal, the divisions that Malik had created slowly fading away. The animals worked together to rebuild what had been damaged, to restore the stolen resources, and to strengthen the bonds of community. Kiara and Kovu were hailed as heroes, their courage and their determination celebrated by all. Simba, proud of his daughter's bravery and wisdom, knew that she was ready to lead the Pride Lands one day. That evening, as the sun set over the Pride Lands, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Kiara stood beside Kovu on Pride Rock, watching the animals gather below. She felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over her. "We did it, Kovu," she said, her voice soft but filled with emotion. "We saved the Pride Lands." Kovu nuzzled her affectionately. "We did it together, Kiara," he said, "and we'll always be there for each other, no matter what challenges we face." Kiara smiled, leaning against Kovu. She knew that the future would not always be easy, that there would be other challenges to overcome. But she also knew that as long as they had each other, and as long as they remained true to their values, they could face anything. The Pride Lands were safe, the animals were united, and the future was bright. The reign of Malik was over, and the reign of peace and prosperity had begun. Later that night, after the celebrations had died down and the Pride Lands were quiet once more, Kiara sat with her father, Simba, on Pride Rock. The stars twinkled above them, casting a soft glow on their faces. "You were very brave, Kiara," Simba said, his voice filled with pride. "You faced a difficult challenge, and you overcame it with courage and wisdom." Kiara smiled. "I couldn't have done it without Kovu, the Lion Guard, and everyone else who helped me," she said. "But I learned a lot from this experience." "What did you learn?" Simba asked, his eyes filled with curiosity. "I learned that it's important to trust my instincts," Kiara said. "I knew from the beginning that something wasn't right about Malik. even though he seemed so charming and charismatic. I learned that it's important to question those who seem too good to be true. She paused, thinking for a moment. I also learned that leadership isn't just about being strong and powerful, she continued. It's about listening to others, about working together, and about making decisions that are in the best interests of everyone. And most importantly, it's about always standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Simon nodded, his expression thoughtful. Those are valuable lessons, Kiara, he said. Lessons that will serve you well when you become queen. Kiara smiled, feeling a sense of anticipation for the future. She knew that she still had much to learn, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She had the love and support of her family and friends, and she had the wisdom and guidance of her father. She was confident that she could lead the Pride Lands with courage, compassion, and justice. As she looked out over the peaceful Pride Lands, she knew that the events with Malik had changed her. She was no longer just a playful princess, but a strong and capable leader, ready to protect her home and her people from any threat. The experience had made her stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to uphold the circle of life and to ensure the prosperity and well-being of the Pride Lands for generations to come. The end.